All right. Good morning, everybody. It is
Morning.
Thursday, time for our very somewhat regularly scheduled series that we've entitled Java with Jay. For those of you who might be new to the series, essentially what that means is we have things that come up from time to time at the office related to some things that we're doing for a client. And in the interest of pushing those things out and trying to put them out there in a way that makes them hopefully easy to understand and a little bit more timely, we try to do these regular sessions that we call Java with Jay. The idea is that the session lasts about as long as it takes to finish one cup of coffee, and then you get to get on with your day and go ahead and do all the other fun stuff rather than listening to some lawyer go blah 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 about some topic. So today's topic that we had in the calendar was, why would you hire an attorney, or why would you consider hiring an attorney, or why is hiring an attorney better for you for filing a Mass Health application? So let's talk about what that looks like. When you apply for Mass Health, it's kind of like a tax audit, right? Everybody's very familiar with, from a planning perspective, the idea that there's a 5-year look back and all the things that kind of go into some of the planning piece of it. But a lot of clients don't get to experience the other side of that, which is, okay, we did some planning, we did certain things, but what happens if we're ever on the steps of the nursing home and we need to apply? And what is that project going to look like? And so, what that project looks like is, the way we define it is, it's essentially a tax audit, right? Three things need to happen for you to be approved for Medicaid. Number one, you need to be in a nursing home, or you need nursing home services. Number two, you need to meet the financial threshold of what being eligible for Medicaid looks like. For a single individual, you can't have more than $2,000. For a married couple, you can't have more than $150,000, and you can usually have a house for the spouse who's not going to a nursing home, the spouse in the house rule. But the other part of it is, you need to pass the test. And the test is, Medicaid is going to look at 5 years of your financial transactions, and they're going to want to know, over the course of that 5 years, where'd your money go? How did you spend it? How did you distribute it? That's what they're going to go look for. So essentially, I want you to think about what's going to happen is, somebody who's not you, not a family member, some government bureaucrat, is going to sit down and look at all your financial transactions from all your financial assets, your bank account, your IRA, your Fidelity account, your Charles Schwab account, your CDs, your life insurance, anything that could be considered money. They're going to go through that process with you, and they're going to go down those statements, and they're going to look for anything that kind of walks and talks like a big transaction. And by big transaction, I mean $1,000 or $1,500, usually out or in. Now, a lot of those transactions are probably pretty standard stuff. I paid a property tax bill. I paid to get my water heater replaced. I paid to get the roof done. I paid to have some work done, on my kitchen or on my bathroom, or I had some landscaping done. And that's all fine. You can always spend your money on yourself. But here's what happens when you're applying for Medicaid. There's usually a couple of ways that can get done. The
Hello.
facility, the facility can volunteer to do it. And if the facility doesn't volunteer to do it, then they might outsource it to some type of third party organization that basically steps in and says, hey, we'll take care of doing this for you. Here's why we think hiring a Medicaid attorney or an elder law attorney to do this for you is a better deal. And there's a couple of reasons. Basically, we break it down to three things. Number one, there may be some legal things that need to get done as part of this Mass Health application process. So, for example, the person that you're applying for may not have a healthcare proxy. The person that you're applying for may not have a power of attorney. They may not have a will. There may need to be some legal work, some legal planning that would involve, or that would necessitate a lawyer being involved. And a facility is not going to offer those types of things for you. They might just say, hey, we'll take on the application. That's fine. but they're not going to do those things. A nursing home is not going to do a power of attorney for you. A nursing home is not going to do a healthcare proxy for you. And some of these other services out there that just do an application, they're not going to be able to do those things for you. And there is some planning that we might do for somebody that's a little counterintuitive. You know, for example, if there's a husband and wife involved, we want to know how everybody's health is holding up. And there may be a scenario that makes sense in terms of us moving money around back and forth between husbands and wives. There may be property transfers for real estate. There may need to be deeds that have to be signed. There may be monies in trust. You know, there are a lot of components to a plan that may really necessitate or that may be made much easier by getting a lawyer involved at the front end. You know, we have a lot of clients that come in and say, Jay, I have a power of attorney and I'm all set. I don't need your help. And then we find out throughout the process that that power of attorney is not so great. You know, it's a little bit of a Toys R Us feel to it. It's not, doesn't have a lot of teeth to it, and it works maybe in some circumstances, but not all circumstances. And so getting a new one for somebody might make more sense. Getting a new one for everybody might make more sense. You know, there might be a need to come in and say, you know, we do plans for clients all the time, and the clients come in and they have what we call I love you wills. And all the estate plans say is everything goes back and forth to the husband and wife. Well, at some point when you're going through the Medicaid process, there may be a need to disinherit somebody because we don't want somebody who might end up on Medicaid, who might end up in a nursing home, to inherit an IRA, to inherit real estate, to inherit taxable assets. So there may be a complete overhaul or a complete and total reevaluation of the way that estate plan that might have been set up 10 years ago when everybody was in good shape and everybody was healthy. Well, now it might make sense to change that. One of the things that we see a lot of time is when clients come to us and they say, look, you know, we need to apply for Medicaid for our loved one. And mom and dad say, and you know what, Jay, we just don't have the gas in the tank to be each other's healthcare proxy or powers of attorney anymore. You know, both of our health is a little touch and go. So rather than us be the healthcare proxy and the power of attorney for each other, we want to raise the kids up or raise whoever we have as the backups and give that job to them. Again, that's all stuff that's going to be handled or taken care of by the attorney who's helping you out with the application. So in many cases, it's not just the application. It's more of a holistic, comprehensive plan that says, as part of your mass health application process, there may be some other things that need to be done to pull the plan together. And those things, in many cases, require the assistance or the help of a lawyer, and just a service that does these applications or leaving that to the facility. They won't be able to do those things for you. They will just be focused on the mass health application. The second reason, or the second thing that we see in a lot of cases where it makes sense for having to have an attorney involved in the state, in the mass health application process, is the attorney works for you. They owe their allegiance. They owe their sort of fiduciary obligation to you as the client. The person who might be filling out that application for you, either at the nursing home or on behalf of the nursing home, they work for the nursing home. The nursing home is their employer. So they don't really have an allegiance for you. Sure, they're helping you out. Yes, they seem willing to want to help you out, and they have a vested interest in making sure that this thing goes the right way. But make no mistake about it, their first allegiance is to their employer, and their employer is the nursing home, not you guys. The reason I say that is because in a lot of cases, there may be some planning opportunities at even a late point in the process in terms of applying for Medicaid, where there's some asset protection strategies that could be employed. And my sense from what we've had from an experience perspective is that the nursing homes, for a whole host of reasons, aren't going to volunteer those reasons to you. For example, in many cases, husband and wife come in the door, or just a single individual, either way. And if they come in and they have too much money to be eligible for Medicaid, let's call it by $100,000, right? That might be an IRA, that might be some savings, and again, they've got some extra money. In many cases, the nursing home solution would be, well, spend that $100,000 with us. And then when all that money has been spent down with us, we will then go ahead and either apply for Medicaid on your behalf or help you out or pull that whole thing together. Again, we'll take care of it $100,000 from now. There may be things that your lawyer would suggest and say, well, look, let's make sure we do this planning in the right order. There are some things that we could spend this money on that might not be the nursing home that will get you guys as the client potentially more bang for your buck. There might be some bills that need to be paid. There might be an outstanding mortgage or an outstanding home equity line on a property that could be paid off. There might be a funeral that hasn't been set up yet, a burial account that hasn't been established. Those things might need to get taken care of and get paid for. There's the possibility of an annuity that could be part of this mix to help save and protect some money for a spouse as part of a spousal husband and wife Medicaid plan. There are certain types of trusts, even if you've never done the planning, even if you waited until the absolute last minute, there are certain types of trusts that you can put money into that can be accessed and utilized to improve the quality of care of the person in the nursing home that might make their life better, because without this trust to give them some extra money, according to the Medicaid regulations, they're going to be left with a whopping $72.80 a month to cover what used to cover haircuts and newspapers. And it doesn't even cover that these days, right? Because they just never changed it. They've never indexed it for inflation. So the idea behind just having either a Medicaid service or the nursing home handle your application is that there potentially are some asset protection strategies that would allow you to move your money around, all within the rules. We're not talking about, no one's going to Medicaid jail. This is all about moving moving the money around in a way that is in line with the regulations and what the regulations say you can do. And my sense is that those options for kind of asset protection strategies may not always be volunteered for you when you're faced with the nursing home application. The answer might just be, well, spend it here, then we'll apply, then we'll get you there. They just may not volunteer on some of those asset protection strategies. So remember, there may need to be some legal reasons, or there might be some legal issues that come up as part of your Medicaid application that will make having a lawyer or an attorney involved in the Mass Health application process for you to get some of those things done. And we usually do them here as part of a Mass Health arrangement with a client. There's potentially some asset protection strategies that we would put on the table that might not get volunteered if you're just leaving the process of getting the application done to the facility. And then the third thing is, what happens if it goes wrong? What happens if it doesn't work out? Well, there's a couple of things to consider. Number one, where this ultimately could weave its way is there could be a hearing at some point with the Medicaid office about some aspect of your application. It potentially could even get into a courtroom, depending on the details around somebody's application. So there is a representation component of this process that I think might be more beneficial for you to have a lawyer involved, so that if there's a need to give you some representation at something like a Mass Health hearing, there's a little bit more, again, a person's working specifically for you to achieve a certain outcome, and they owe you, the duty of care. They owe you that fiduciary standard. That's where I think having the individual at who works for you, not necessarily at a facility, handling your application. But the other part of it is some of it's economics. Okay. I'm not throwing anybody who works at a facility, and I'm not intending to throw anybody who works at a facility or at a nursing home under the bus for their ability to do a Mass Health application. They see this all the time. They're in the space, and I'm sure it works out fine. I'm sure it works out fine. I just don't know if it always works out fine. And here's why. Out of all the things that we do here, the Medicaid application part of the process is the one thing that probably gives me a little bit of agita. And here's why. The Mass Health process, the Medicaid application process, takes a long time. We tell clients it takes anywhere from 6 to 8 months to get somebody approved for Medicaid. So what that means is if we start somebody's application March 1, that application process is going to go March, April, May, June, July, August. We're into the end of August, if you will, before this application could possibly get approved. And if it gets approved, that's wonderful. The approval will come in August. The approval will be retroactive back to the day that we asked the benefits to start, and everything should be fine. We do that all the time. That happens. That's not a problem. Here's the concern. The concern is that if the application doesn't get approved for any number of reasons, it doesn't matter. You have an 8-month window where the nursing home is going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, we understand that your application for your dad or your mom or both of them didn't get approved through Mass Health. That's unfortunate. And oh, by the way, when you deal with them going forward, let us know what happens. But in the meantime, we have a bill for you, and it's for 8 months of a nursing home stay because you didn't get approved from Mass Health. And it's 8 times 5 is 40, and it's about 120 grand. So if you want to just write us a check, that'd be super. And then you guys can kind of continue to do your thing. That's the challenge. The challenge is getting it right is great. Everything's wonderful. Everybody's happy. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah. The problem is getting it wrong is a real challenge. And so there is a lot at stake. It's not a case of, oh, it didn't work. That's fine. We'll just do it again. We'll figure it out. That's fine. You don't want to sort of muddle your way through this process. You really do want to have a plan going into this. Again, I'm not saying that the people that you might work with at a nursing facility don't have that plan. I'm sure they do. But again, they work for the nursing home. I think it's beneficial to have somebody that works for you because your lawyer is going to look at it from a couple of different perspectives, and they're going to be able to give you a little bit, I think, a little bit more targeted advice and guidance around the things that can be done from a legal perspective, the things that can be done from an asset protection perspective. And then I think that you have a little bit of a better shot that if something does go wrong, you have a little bit better coverage from having your attorney involved rather than somebody who doesn't necessarily represent you. They really work for the facility or they work for another organization. I really think you want somebody in your corner to cover those things. So just to recap, so why do we think you should have an attorney help you out with your Mass Health application? We think you should have an attorney help you out with your Mass Health application because there are going to be some things that need to get done that only an attorney can done. I think that's more helpful for you as part of that representation because they can cover a lot of different moving parts. We talked earlier about retitling property into different names, taking property out of trusts, putting property into trusts, setting up or establishing the right type of trusts, and redoing healthcare proxies and powers of attorney is kind of an overall refresh of your plan because your estate plan might have been made 10 years ago and it was just geared around probate avoidance. And now your estate plan needs to reflect the fact that there's a Mass Health application kind of in the mix on this. So that's where I think an attorney doing your Mass Health estate plan, your Mass Health planning works out better for you. Number two is there's asset protection strategies that most of your attorneys will probably suggest for you that may not be suggested, may not even be aware of by some of the people at some of these facilities. We've done a particular planning technique that we've used for years for clients, and there were a couple of situations where we've dealt with the nursing facility, and we would tell them this is what we're doing with the money, and we explained it. I mean, it's in the regulations. It's perfectly legal what we were doing. We don't do anything obviously illegal here. We were doing something that was perfectly well within our rights, within the regulations. And the person at the nursing home had never heard of the strategy that we were employing. It kind of blew their mind. They were very suspicious about it. They really thought we were trying to pull a fast one on them. And we sort of had to keep saying to them, look, your problem is not what I'm doing. Your problem is taking care of my client. Let me worry about the Mass Health application. So there are some things out there that not necessarily everybody's kind of coached up on. And then the third thing is, if it goes wrong, the repercussions and the financial impact of it going wrong can be really, really extreme. And so you want to make sure that, I think sometimes, if there's an appeals process and possibly something that goes even further than that, I think that's where having a Mass Health, an attorney who's sort of versed in the area of doing Mass Health applications for you works out more to your advantage. To that end, I would suggest, and I say this to clients all the time, or prospective clients all the time, if you think that there's a nursing home out there in somebody's future, you want to get to the attorney sooner rather than later. You want to make sure you get to them because there will be some things that they can do and there will be some things that they can fix up. Time is always of the essence in these scenarios. Somebody might have some fluid cognitive abilities, and we need to make sure we can get some things done. So you want to make sure you kind of get in front of this in a Mass Health, Medicaid, nursing home placement situation. Sooner is always better than later. So that being it, I'm at the bottom of my coffee mug. I'm sure most of you guys are as well. If you have any questions, please always feel free to give us a ring here at the office, 508-858-5324. We're always happy to schedule some time either on the phone or in person to talk about any of the issues that may come up specific to this topic that we've covered today, or specific to any of the other topics that we have put together. And a lot of these things that we do here in terms of webinars and seminars, we record them, we put them on our YouTube page. So feel free to go there and check those out, and then check everything out on our homepage. That will derive you to those. And we hope that you find that information helpful. And if there's a specific topic that anybody wants me to cover, if we haven't covered it, or if we want to cover it either in a more updated fashion or a little bit more detail, please feel free to email me at marsdenlaw.com. That's my email address. If there's a topic you want us to cover, send me an email and we're happy to do it. Otherwise, I'll let you guys get back to this gray, gloomy day. Hopefully the sun will come back out. Let's at least enjoy the fact that it's not freezing cold. And hope to see everybody on our next edition of Java with Jay. Have a great day. Enjoy, everybody.
Thank you, Jay. Bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you.